Mark on Prime Minister Modi, it stirs a major controversy. Is this sign of dictatorial mindset? Is one of the questions we'll ask. Also, the Adani stock crash. A month later, why are we not hearing anything from Sebi? All that and more. But first, as always, it's time for the 9 headlines at 9. Congress Neta Pawan Kheda detained, arrested, then let out on bail over Gautam Das remark against Prime Minister Modi. Congress accuses center of dictatorship is a big story. With guns and swords in hand, Khalistani ideologue Amritpal supporters clashed with police in Amritsar. Demand case against him be dropped. Punjab cops buckle under the pressure, declare Amritpal's aide innocent. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal's PA in liquor scam probe now. AAP leader Jasmine Shah also summoned. Meanwhile, BJP protests outside AAP headquarters demanding Sisodia's resignation in Snoopgate case. And a late-night ruckus in the MCD house in the national capital. Multiple disruptions and fisticuffs disrupt standing panel voting in the house. Big relief for E. Palanisamy. Top court upholds single leadership in the AIDMK. Gives nod for the party general body meeting. Refuses to look into OPS plea. Another young Congress Neta resigns. Freedom icon Rajaji's great-grandson C.R. Keswan quits the Congress as party forced him to slam Modi government's pro-India policies. Uddhav Sena MP Sanjay Raut booked by Thane police on charge of making defamatory remarks against Chief Minister Shinde's son. This a day after Raut accused Shinde of plotting his murder. And External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar speaks on crisis-hit Pakistan, says no country can become prosperous if its basic industry is terrorism. And the value of LIC's investments in Adani turned negative. The post a notional loss of 50,000 crore in their investments. 3 Adani companies registered a fall of more than 80% from their 52-week high. But tonight's top story, high drama today at the Delhi International Airport as Assam police stepped in and arrested the Congress spokesperson Pawan Kheda. The Congress media in charge was deboarded from a flight that was about to take off. He was accused of having targeted Prime Minister Modi in one of his press conferences. The fact, though, is that the Congress then staged a dharna and claimed that this was evidence of dictatorial attitudes. Later, Khera got interim bail from the Supreme Court. The BJP defended the arrest, calling Khera's remark an insult to the Prime Minister, where he had linked the Prime Minister to Gautam Adani. Khera claims it was a slip of the tongue. But either way, the bigger question, should a person be arrested and deplaned in some kind of an urgent manner for a critical remark, no matter how distasteful it may sound? Are we becoming something of a police state? It's our top story tonight.
It is not often that you see a political dharna on the tarmac of an international airport. The Indigo flight 6E204 to Raipur was ready for takeoff from Terminal 1 of the Indira Gandhi International Airport on Thursday, when one of the passengers was told to get off the plane. Congress leader Pawan Kheda, who was flying to Chhattisgarh to attend the plenary session, was unceremoniously deplaned.
मुझे कहा कि आपका सामान दिखवाना है, मैंने कहा मेरे पास कोई सामान है नहीं, हैंड बैग है, बोले नहीं इस बार आप आइए, नीचे आया तो कहा कि आप नहीं जा सकते, अभी डीसीपी आएंगे आपसे, मुझे खुद नहीं मालूम, पिछले 20 मिनट से डीसीपी की इंतजार कर रहे हैं।
Kheda's party colleagues who were travelling on the same plane soon joined him on the tarmac. As it became clear, the Congress spokesperson was being arrested for a comment he made against Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
पवन खेड़ा का कसूर क्या है? उन्होंने एक पत्रकार वार्ता में केवल और केवल नाम लिया था हम ये इस सच्चाई से लड़ेंगे। हम सच्चाई के सिपाही हैं।
आपने पहले हमारे महाधिवेशन में व्यवधान डालना चाहा, वहाँ पर ईडी रेड कराकर। अब आप हमारे कुलीग को यहाँ पर डीप्लेन कर रहे हैं। इन्होंने ऐसा कौन सा गलत काम किया है जिसके लिए ये कार्रवाई की जा रही है, किन धाराओं के अंतर्गत की जा रही है, ये बताना पड़ेगा।
The arrest was on the basis of an FIR by Assam police registered in Dima Hasao district. The case against Kheda is over a jibe he made linking Prime Minister Narendra Modi and industrialist Gautam Adani, which he later claimed was a slip of tongue.
जब नरसिम्हा राव जी जेपीसी बना सकते थे, जब अटल बिहारी वाजपेयी जी जेपीसी बैठा सकते थे, तो दामोदर दास मोदी को क्या प्रॉब्लम है? गौतम दास है दामोदर दास सॉरी।
While Kheda made the remark against Prime Minister Modi on Friday, the BJP raised it in a big way this week, calling it a personal attack and an insult.
कितने ही अपशब्द क्यों ना कहें, अमर्यादित भाषा क्यों ना बोलें, ये अपना ही गड्ढा खोदने जैसा है जिसमें कांग्रेस पार्टी खुद गिरेगी।
The Congress protest on the tarmac against Kheda's arrest lasted over an hour. The flight was later cancelled and passengers shifted to another plane. The Supreme Court has granted interim bail to Kheda.
इस तरह से गैरकानूनी रूप से मुझे गिरफ्तार किया गया असम पुलिस द्वारा। न्याय प्रणाली पर मुझे पूरा भरोसा और आस्था है, जिसकी वजह से आज मेरी स्वतंत्रता की रक्षा हुई है।
The Congress leader will now challenge the cases against him in the appropriate court. Bureau Report, India Today.
And joining me now are our guests, but before that, the big questions. Police powers brazenly being misused to settle political scores. Arrests of political opponents a sign of dictatorial mindset. Has political discourse reached a new low? Is an apology enough in such cases? On our face-off tonight, I'm joined by Supriya Srinath, Congress spokesperson, and Syed Zafar Islam, the BJP spokesperson. Let's turn to both of you. First to Syed Zafar Islam, because clearly the BJP, which is in power in Assam, power in Delhi, has to answer the question. Have you misused police powers to deplane someone, arrest him for a comment he passed 4 days ago in a press conference, which he said was a slip of the tongue, and you put charges from conspiracy against the country to provoking religious disharmony to suggesting he's waging war against India? I mean, are you being absurd? I'm sorry to say, Syed Zafar Islam, have you lost the plot on this one?
Well, Rajdeep, you have the flexibility and freedom as a journalist to speak the way you are speaking. But everyone has to maintain certain decorum. Likewise, all of us have to maintain certain decorum, including the Congress spokesperson, for that matter, any other individual. But when you start abusing the Honorable Prime Minister, using such words, I mean, he is clearly abusing the Prime Minister, then if at all he wanted to apologize, he could have apologized at that point in time, but he didn't. And when you are targeting Prime Minister with all this nasty sentences,
Nobody justifying Mr. Kheda's comments. Does it require the Assam police to call for the deplaning of Mr. Kheda as if he's some kind of a terrorist? What is the message you are sending out? That in this country we have freedom of speech but no freedom after speech? Let's assume that he has said something which is insulting. Does it require this kind of action? Action must be proportionate to your crime. How is it waging war against India? How is it spreading religious disaffection under Section 153? For God's sake, Syed Zafar Islam, have we lost the plot as a country?
Not at all. There is a rule of law in this country, but when you cross the barrier or the limit which is set for every individual, then of course law of the land will take its own course, and that is what has happened. If there is an FIR against him in Assam,
is the crime?
Police has to take action against him. And which
An FIR where the Assam police, has to come as if there is something urgent, there's an emergency to pick him up and deplane him. Zafar Islam, you are stretching the boundaries of incredulity. For God's sake, you're an intelligent man. Is this what you believe, that the Assam police should come into a plane to pick up someone for a statement he has made in a press conference? Do you really believe that?
So what do you expect? No, Rajdeep, what do you expect? If you commit a crime, if you abuse the Honorable Prime Minister and you use such nasty words against him, and there is an FIR, if there is an FIR against you, will the police wait for him to travel to Assam, or the police will take action and visit wherever he is and take law to its own course? What is wrong in it?
The Indian,
what is wrong in it?
Supriya,
he will be subject to...
Okay, you believe abusing the Prime Minister, which is of course a question whether, whether that is sufficient, as I said, for calling it waging war against India. Mocking the Prime Minister means waging war against India. But Supriya Srinath respond. According to Zafar Islam, there is a crime committed, and therefore Pawan Khera, the Assam police, had the right to execute an FIR.
Increasingly, I feel we live in a police state. Increasingly, I feel that this country has become a circus. Increasingly, I feel that people cannot go with their freedom of speech and expression. Pawan Khera had a slip of tongue. You play back his statement from that press conference and he says, sorry, Damodar Das Modi, and moves on. And that
it was not a slip of tongue. There I disagree, ma'am. It was a deliberate political attempt, which maybe people are entitled to. It was not a slip of tongue.
Let me please come back and answer a few things. I will go with the version that I have heard from him and the version that was told to the court, on the basis of which respite has been given. It was a slip of tongue. He apologized for it. They moved ahead and the press conference was over. I want to ask you a counter question. This was a slip of tongue. What would you say to deliberate statements made by India's Prime Minister? And because various statements of our leaders have been played, I want to play a short 20-second clip just for the viewers and let them decide, please.
ये कांग्रेस की कौन सी विधवा थी? अली ढेरों बता दीजिए, इस देश में कभी किसी ने 50 करोड़ की गर्लफ्रेंड देखी है? दीदी, आदरणीय दीदी, ओ दीदी.
And not just this, Rajdeep, if you can please allow me the liberty to play something else, just for the benefit of your viewers again. Because I think people need to know the kind of language that India's Prime Minister has used. Another 10 seconds, please.
इसकी कौन सी विधवा थी?
Just 10 seconds.
दौरे पर
Supriya Srinath, I have got...
1 second, Rajdeep. 1 second. 1 second, Rajdeep.
बाथरूम में रेनकोट पहन करके नहाना, ये कला तो डॉक्टर साहब ही जानते हैं और कोई नहीं.
So bathroom में रेनकोट पहनकर नहाना, said on the floor of the house. जर्सी गाय, कांग्रेस की विधवा, 50 करोड़ की गर्लफ्रेंड, दीदी ओ दीदी, खूनी पंजा, night watchman. These words have been used by India's Prime Minister. India's Prime Minister
but y'all have also used, no, 1 minute, y'all have also used words like Bhasmasur and Ravan.
Are we suing him for this?
You have also used words like Bhasmasur and Ravan against Prime Minister. You see, it's a low-level discourse. My problem is not the discourse, it's the action which is disproportionate.
No,
it's
that's exactly
misusing
what my
police.
point is. That is exactly what my point is. If the Prime Minister is so touchy about any word that's said against him, and this was clearly a slip of tongue, I want to understand, what does the Prime Minister want to do himself to raise the discourse? Is he raising the discourse when he calls my president Congress ki vidhva? Is he raising the discourse when he calls a legally wedded wife 50 crore ki girlfriend? Is he raising the discourse when he says raincoat pehenkar nahate hain Dr. Saab? Is he raising the discourse? So do to others what you want them to do to you. If you are going to be debased and use this crass language, please expect people to pay you back in the same penny. It's actually quite as simple as that. But let me please put it on record here. The issue is neither Pawan Khera's attempted arrest, which was done, and then of course Supreme Court gave a respite. It is neither the ED raids during our plenary. It is actually only amounts to one thing, and that thing is the connection between Gautam Adani and Narendra Modi. Today, LICs, no you cannot, I'm still talking. Today, LIC's investments have turned negative. Is anybody speaking about that? LIC had invested a certain amount of money, 50,000 crore.
I will debate Adani later in the show today.
Who's speaking about
I will debate Ms. Supriya Srinath. I will debate Adani later in the show, but I want to focus today on police powers because I believe that is the real problem. The police is being used as a handmaiden to settle political scores. And Syed Zafar Islam, today it is the Assam police. 1 minute, ma'am. Tomorrow it could be. No, ma'am, this is a country where journalists have been arrested, where cartoonists are picked up. Please, ma'am. No. Okay, just a minute. The mighty Indian state includes state governments and center. It's not...
Small point.
Yes, very quickly, please.
The mighty Indian state is scared of a 21-year-old climate activist. The mighty Indian state wants to go and raid the BBC. The mighty Indian state is scared of journalists. And what are people like Hemanta Biswa Sarma and Mr. Yogi doing? Sending their police all across the country. You picked up Jignesh Mavani, our MLA from Gujarat. What happened? Your High Court gave an order against you. The Guwahati High Court order gave a scathing order against you, and that's exactly what the Supreme Court has done today. When will you learn?
Your
when
time,
will you stop using arbitrary police power against
Srinath, you've had enough of time to make your point. I must now allow a response. Yes, go ahead. Go ahead, Zafar Islam. Go ahead, please.
Rajdeep, first of all, it must be a temporary relief. The matter is in Supreme Court. I think one should wait till the next hearing, and let the judgment be pronounced by the Honorable Supreme Court. Then we will let her thrill with joy. But I'm sure that there's enough meat for him to be behind the bar, and we'll wait for the judgment to come from the Supreme Court. But let me remind her what their leaders have spoken about the Honorable Prime Minister.
1 minute, ma'am, now.
Shah, I didn't interrupt you. Please listen to me. Tana Shah, he was called rat. Maut ka saudagar. Who said this? Ravan, औकात दिखा देंगे. Hitler की मौत मरेगा. So many nasty words they are using against the Prime Minister. But when you actually cross your limit, we didn't ask police to take action. We didn't go for any FIR, or no one has gone for FIR when you made this kind of a statement, because we were tolerating it. But when you just cross the limit and abusing the Prime Minister, instead of his father's name, you are using somebody else's name, and it was intentional.
Sir, do you think the Prime Minister, Mr. Zafar Islam, I have two issues. Okay, I have two issues. When the Prime Minister used the word 50 crore girlfriend, is it okay? When you say someone is a Jersey cow and Congress ki vidwa, is it okay? You see, you can't bring that discourse down low, and then when others bring it down, you say, oh, look at what they are saying. The fact is, all our politicians and the Prime Minister of this country have brought the discourse down. That's the reality. A. Number two, let us assume that both sides have been responsible for this. Why use the police? Where's the police in this? What is the police going to do in these cases? That's what I keep asking you, sir.
Rajdeep,
can I make a very small
who will take action against somebody who is abusing the Prime Minister? It is the police. Once the FIR has been filed, then it has to be executed. Who will execute? Will you execute?
No, what is the crime?
It is the authority which has been given the responsibility. He will discharge the responsibility.
For saying Narendra Gautam Das Adani, Gautam Das Modi, what is the crime?
Which is totally...
What's the crime there?
It's
wrong. I agree with you. It's terrible. It's mocking him. It's wrong.
No. Can I use Rajdeep Gautam Bhai?
I'm okay with it.
Sound good?
I've got nothing
Obviously,
to hide.
Your father's name is Sardesai, and that's what. No, you are okay with it.
Sir,
you are okay with it. Doesn't mean that everybody should be okay with it. No, you are okay because you want to tolerate such nonsense. Everybody will not tolerate, and especially when it comes to Prime Minister, nobody will tolerate. And when there is an FIR, it has to be executed. and the police will put him behind the bar.
Okay, let me ask you therefore,
Rajdeep.
Supriya Srinath, is the lesson somewhere, just a minute, ma'am, just as the BJP must learn the lesson of not misusing police powers that they have today in large parts of the country, will spokesperson like yourself, like Mr. Khera also recognize that sometimes you all are getting carried away and saying things which are offensive? And thereby what you need to do is also improve the quality of discourse, not simply point out to the other person. This whataboutery also must end.
If getting carried away and saying insane, insulting or not one spokesperson of the BJP will be able to speak in a straight sentence, whether in English or in Hindi. एक शब्द नहीं बोल पाएंगे ये लोग. The kind of nonsensical things that the BJP spokespersons come and say about my leadership, about Pandit Nehru, and Mr. Modi follows them all. What exactly are we talking about? The reality is, just before the plenary, the agenda is very clearly decided. There are two ideologies in this country, one which is going to rule with the brute majoritarian police force, and one that is going to listen to the people and articulate their concerns. If talking about unemployment, high prices, income inequality, women, and the Adani allegations is a serious crime, we will continue to commit this crime no matter what this government does.
You are
What will they
entitled
do?
to
They will
raise,
hang
but
us.
I think you
Let them
also
come and
need
hang
to
us.
raise
But
the
हम
level
सवाल
of
तो
political
पूछेंगे अडानी
discourse.
पर
That's
आपसे.
the challenge. You have every right to raise questions. The manner in which you do can be looked at, but the fact is, misusing the police
Rajdeep,
has to stop, and it's happening across the country. And Zafar Islam, I think the least you can say is you accept. Tomorrow it could be you who's picked up by a police force in a Congress-ruled state. This must stop. And you must say that, because that is what we want as a country. The police is not your private militia. And it's time you all realize that, sir.
No.
The police is the country, has a rule of law.
Police is a Rajdeep. Rajdeep,
You're using it as a
you are
private
preaching
militia. All of
something
you.
Which we already no. You are preaching something which we already follow. Police is authority. They have to discharge their responsibility. If there is an FIR, especially when somebody has committed crime, if nobody takes action, then you will also. They will lose faith in police.
What is the crime?
And policing what they are
Mr.
required
Zafar
to do.
Islam, what is the crime?
Crime is that
what is the crime? This is a country where murderers get away.
Half of you will be behind jail.
crime
Abusing
is
the
that
Prime
he-
Minister
he-
cannot
he-
be a
he-
crime that allows you to deflame someone.
No. Just a second.
That is not a crime that
He is not only
the
abusing the Prime Minister,
punishment
he
must
is
fit the
trying to
crime.
create-
चक्की पीसेंगे
No,
ये याद
he-
रखिएगा आप.
He is hurting the sentiment,
The reality
religious
is this.
sentiments.
Half
He
of
is
you will be
creating
behind
enmity
bars.
between the
Religious-
societies. He is trying
Serving
to
a
break
jail
the society, mislead the people, and
What is enmity?
especially
What enmity was created?
Okay.
What
and especially the
religious sentiment was hurt?
OBC.
You
He
don't
was
even
targeting
sound sane.
OBC.
Do you realize
That's
that,
why
right?
it is
You sound-
He
important
was
for
targeting
everyone to
you.
learn the lesson that you have to have a political discourse. Which
Oh
is
my
something which
God.
is
Oh
acceptable
my
to the
God.
society and
You know,
even
you
Okay,
guys
what
have
has
really
made
lost
this
I
kind of
leave it
statement.
there.
Completely lost.
Okay, I leave it there. I leave it there, ma'am.
You
I
sound
appreciate
insane.
both of
We
you
have
joining us.
elected
It's
a
an
clown and we are
unfortunate
seeing a-
moment when, as I said, this country has freedom of speech, but it doesn't seem to increasingly have freedom after speech. And that's unfortunate. I leave it there, though, to our viewers to decide whether the police should be doing the things they do in such cases. Let's turn from there to what actually should be the focus. It is exactly 1 month now since the Hindenburg research report came on the Gautam Adani Group, and it completely resulted in the group's shares meltdown. Today, the biggest institutional investor, Life Insurance Corporation, has seen an enormous notional loss of almost 50,000 crore rupees amidst the ongoing sell-off in the Adani Group. Not only this, fall in at least 3 of the group stocks is now nearing 85% of that which was forecast by Hindenburg in its report exactly a month ago. So far, Sebi has stayed mum beyond a press release saying it's looking into the matter. What lies ahead? Take a look.
ये जो हजारों करोड़ रुपया ये शेल कंपनीज हिंदुस्तान में भेज रही हैं, ये किसका पैसा है?
a political hot potato which paralyzed both houses of parliament during the crucial budget session earlier this month. Since the Hindenburg report on the Adani Group was released nearly a month ago, the issue of the public sector, LIC, allegedly being pressured by the government to invest in the conglomerate has been the spearhead of the opposition attack. With Adani stocks in the red every day, there were fears that LIC policyholders would lose their money to the Adani firestorm. Now, research by Business Today shows that LIC has lost massively in the sell-off. The state-owned life insurer notional loss stands at a staggering 49,728 crore rupees this year. The maximum notional loss of 19,000 crores in the Adani Total Gas, followed by the flagship Adani Enterprises of nearly 12,000 crore. The notional loss in Adani Transmission is around 7,500 crore, while in Adani Ports, it is around 5,200 crore. Importantly, the calculation does not include LIC's stake in three companies, Adani Wilmar, Adani Power and NDTV, because either LIC may not hold a stake or the shareholding is below the 1% threshold for disclosure norms. Meanwhile, at least one of the allegations of Hindenburg research may be coming true. The short seller had alleged that there was 85% downsize to 7 shares of Adani Group. Adani Green Energy has slipped 83% from its 52-week highs. Adani Transmission is down 82%, while Adani Total Gas is down more than 80%. The sell-off continued today in group companies, with 8 of the 10 stocks in the red. The group lost 20,000 crore in market cap today, taking the total value erosion since 25th of January to 11.85 lakh crore rupees. There are meanwhile fears that the Adani debacle may scare off FII investment from the Indian bourses. The recent sell-off on Dalal Street has already pushed India to the 7th place in market capitalization after the United Kingdom. With Rahul Oberoi, Bureau Report, Business Today Television.
So what lies ahead for the Adani Group? What should Sebi importantly be doing? These are some of the questions we want to raise. Joining me now is Saurabh Majumdar. He's editor at Business Today magazine. Kranti Bhatini is Director Equity Strategy at Wealth Mill Security Private Limited, a member of BSE as well. Hemendra Hazari is an independent research analyst and also joining me is Alok Churiwala, MD Churiwala Securities, former director at the Bombay Stock Exchange. I want to get each of you to tell me what lies ahead. Saurabh, why don't you start? You've had this 1 month which has been turbulent. Almost several of Adani stocks are 85% of what Hindenburg predicted in terms of their meltdown. Could it get worse in your view? Is this only, in a way, perhaps the tip of what could lie ahead?
Rajdeep, we've been calling it in Business Today the Hindenburg iceberg. Because the Adani Group just did not see it coming. You know what happened to the FPO, how it was somehow managed to have scraped through and then called off because the stocks just kept, falling. And we had a discussion earlier on that. Now, as far as going forward is concerned, I think there are several lessons to be learned from the Adani fiasco, if I may call it that. One is, this whole business of controlling a large stake and not having enough floating stock has really led to a rally last year where 100% plus market capitalization growth was seen in Adani stocks. And that a lot of these people, believed in, but actually turned out to be almost a paper rally, because if your floating stock is so low, obviously the stocks will become volatile and move in a certain direction when the going is good and crash when the going is, is bad. So one lesson for sure is that the floating stock, and this has been talked about by valuation experts, that this whole obsession with control needs to actually go. Markets need broader shareholding by companies of this size and scale. That's one. But the more important part is about transparency. I think the lesson Adani needs to really learn from here on, and we don't really know where this bloodletting will stop as far as stocks is concerned, But the lesson which needs to be learned is you need to engage, you need to be transparent. There are lots of fogginess still continues about the Adani Group, and that's what the stock markets are hitting.
So what, therefore, Hemendra Azari, given the fact that there is still a question mark over exactly a lot of the transactions that were done, allegations that have been continuously made, even now are made over the role of Mr. Adani's brother Vinod Adani, about allegations of round tripping, we haven't heard from SEBI. Do you believe SEBI must now break its silence, do more than just that one press release that came a few weeks ago saying we are probing or looking into it? Do they need to do more, given that the meltdown continues?
They needed to do more right from day one, when the Adani shares were rising, when everyone knew that the floating stock in most of these Adani companies was very limited. There was such a huge and stupendous rise in the share price. And normally SEBI has excellent surveillance systems. And therefore, it was the responsibility of SEBI to have conducted an investigation at that point in time and to inform the market about the rise. Today, one of the great silences, the great silence that we have is from the regulator. The regulator really has not come out with anything specific on this matter. And the critical point...
No, but the flip side, Hemendra, would be that the regulator will say we haven't had enough time to actually come up. We are carrying on our investigations. We can't short-circuit those investigations.
You see, when there's been such a spectacular crash, when I think it is more than, $120 billion reduction in the market capitalization, one expects the regulator to give up its power of silence and come and reassure the market. Because the market needs to know that whether the Hindenburg accusations have some credibility or not. The very fact that the market prices of the
So you're saying that SEBI has to provide some kind of reassurance to the markets that are continuously, even now, jittery a month later. Mr. Churiwala, you were, I remember, a month ago with Mr. Azari. At that time, you said, don't worry, all will be well. 1 month later, we still don't know how bad it could get.
But Rajdeep, we have to realize that 1 month later, what we are seeing is companies where valuations were very lofty have come off almost by 85%. The other companies where valuations perhaps are not as obscure have come down, maybe not by 85, maybe by 50 or 60%. But market seems to have, in a manner of speaking, stabilized. You see, when there is a run on a bank, even the most solvent bank can't stand. In this hit job, which I called it then and I continue to call it now, what happened was there was a run on the Adani share, and willy-nilly they have managed to ward off that threat. They've stayed solvent. They have prepaid loans.
Are you saying the worst is? Are you saying the worst is over? Are you saying the worst is over, Mr. Churiwala?
No, it's still early days, Rajdeep. When a damage of 85% happens in a stock, or when damage of 50% happens in a stock, 1 month is not enough. The stock will have to consolidate. It will take a few months, if not a few quarters, for things to, for the real picture to come through. I'm not saying that the stock prices will not halve from here. Maybe it will, because finally in market we have a saying in Gujarati, bhav bhagwan che. So, the price is the greatest determinant. And in this case also, the price has determined that there was froth, which has gone away. And let's see what the future holds.
That in a way, Kranti Bathini, do you believe that it's simply a case of the froth has gone? The fact was that there were a few stocks overvalued and that has corrected itself? Or is there something more? Because we are getting, even in the last month, more and more revelations coming out, particularly possibly of stock manipulation allegations as well as round-tripping allegations. Do you believe that the dust has fully settled until SEBI comes out with a clear statement on exactly what the situation is? Should SEBI now stand up to be counted?
Rajdeep, if you see the market movements of Adani Group, price changes the perception of the people. As long as the stocks have been rising, people are chasing those stocks, and there was a party was on. Once the bombshell of Hindenburg report came on Adani Group, and what we witnessed is a market capitalization erosion of more than $135 billion, which translates to more than 11 lakhs crores. Right now, if you ask, the dust is settled. The saga of news that are coming from different kind of reports have been hampering the sentiment of Adani Group shares. So every day some kind of one positive news, the other day some kind of negative news has been dampening the sentiment of the shares.
But it's also, Kranti, that people seem to be believing these stories. You know, Adani gave a detailed response to Hindenburg, but it appears for now a large number of people seem to be believing what Hindenburg said.
Rajdeep, Hindenburg have come up with different kind of allegations, and the company have been categorically mentioning that these are the allegations. But we need to wait and see how these things are going to evolve and proven. But till now, they are not proven by any kind of regulator or any kind of reputed authority. Now, coming to the point, what they have been doing is, from past 1 month, they have been repaying their debt and prepaying their debt. And if you see, in the next 1 year, Adani Group has to pay around a debt of around bond obligations around $2 billion. And as per the recent reports, they have a cash around 31,000 crores in their balance sheets. So the group has to take more measures to increase the investor confidence, to make the dust to settle in the coming days.
So is it in a way, therefore, Saurabh Majumdar, actually the last month has in a way been a wake-up call for Adanis, not just for the regulator, and actually gives an opportunity for the Adanis to get their act together? I was reading a piece by Swaminathan Iyer, who actually seems to believe that this is actually an opportunity for Mr. Adani to actually get his act together and make his books cleaner, the governance more transparent. Do you see that happening?
I completely, buy this point that this is as good as big a wake-up call. Unfortunately, it has really caused a lot of havoc and problems overall in terms of the Adani Group. But I think it is as good a wake-up call as any other, Rajdeep, for the simple reason that this is the issue, as I come back, is transparency. How there are lots of other fogginess which is swirling around. What is the source of some of the funds? What the funding which has led to some of these acquisitions? Every day there seems to be something or the other coming up, to which not every answer is actually being provided, I must say. So there are allegations which are, of course, in the public domain, as Adani Group has said earlier about to Hindenburg.
No, but do you agree with what Hemendra Hazari is saying, that SEBI now needs to step up and reassure the markets that they are carrying out a free and fair investigation?
Well, exactly. That's the role of the regulator, Rajdeep. And my view is that, that is where probably the market is waiting, which is why you don't see that complete settling down of the stock market prices yet. Because I think the SEBI report and the SEBI investigation, if you see, there are multiple facets to it. There is this whole issue of who's the ultimate beneficial ownership of the shares, who are the people who are invested into it. Even there is this question about who were the FPO investors. All of this, SEBI needs to go into it, not just the allegations by Hindenburg, but also who were the sellers who caused this whole stock rout. That's also another investigation which needs to be done.
But do you believe, Hemendra Hazari, given the political fallout of what's happening, that we will actually get to the bottom of it? Do you really believe that, with all the political noise, can investors expect clarity?
No, I don't think that you will see that because of the perceived political proximity of this group. I think by now the regulator should have conducted some investigations, which the media then have covered. But so far, one does not even get a whiff of that. So sadly, it doesn't look like that the regulator or any other agency is going to do anything for the moment. I think they will all wait for the storm to pass, then they may come up with some kind of...
Okay, we're having some problem with Hemendra's audio, but Mr. Churiwala, do you also accept that SEBI now cannot stay quiet? Because the longer it stays quiet, the more the suspicion is that is SEBI doing a free and fair investigation, or is it being politically influenced? It's in the interest of Adani's, of the investors, of the government of India for SEBI to come out with a clearer report.
See, being a SEBI regulated entity myself, it would not be proper on my part to comment on what SEBI, my regulator, ought to do or not ought to do. But I will say a couple of things. One of the main tasks that SEBI needs to is mandated with doing is the free and fair conduct of the markets. If you see in this entire episode, and you will have to give credit to SEBI for that not one day has trading been suspended. Despite so much volatility in the market, there has been not a single payment default. Despite Adani stocks falling 85%, the market has been allowed to discover prices freely. No artificial bans were imposed. Nothing of that sort has happened. So that proves to the world that our market is now a matured market. While there may be aberrations in individual companies, but as a capital market as a whole, we are in a very evolved space. One more point I'd like to make, and that is mispricing. Valuations often are mispriced. We've seen earlier it happen in the crypto world where valuation went sky high. We've seen them happen in startups and new age companies where growth is the forte. And, growth was valued at differently. Today, of course, things are being looked at with a very large magnifying glass. Things are being looked at in a very different light. So, like I always say, hindsight.
Now, whether it was mispricing or manipulation, the jury is still out on that. That is where SEBI needs to tell us exactly what happened. They need to come out with clarity. If SEBI doesn't provide clarity, the markets will remain volatile possibly, and therefore investor confidence will be affected. And as the last month has shown, even if you're as big as Mr. Adani was, you can sometimes fail. What we need, as Saurabh Majumdar put, is transparency above all else, and sooner rather than later. We'll have many more discussions on these issues. These are the topics that at the moment most primetime news doesn't touch. We will continue to touch them. That's what we will do here on the 9 p.m. news. I appreciate my guests joining me. Let's take a break. When we return, we'll turn to some of our other day's top stories, including how exactly in Punjab a self-styled religious leader, Amritpal Singh's supporters, are creating chaos. More on the news today.
I think there's an opportunity for India particularly to work with the United States and others.
India is has the largest vaccine manufacturer in the world.
I thought if it's blowing in the wind, it's best I'm on the motorcycle. And I did 15,000 kilometers in 36 days.
Rich countries have a particular obligation to exercise their investment in innovation.
I believe that global business has the money and the power.
Improvements in the way we understand the importance of education and healthcare.
You have a greater chance of killing yourself than of being killed by any soldier or terrorist or criminal.
Okay, let's turn to tonight's ground report. It comes from Amritsar, where self-styled religious leader Amritpal Singh's supporters attacked a police station in Amritsar. The mob issued a threat to the police. A number of police personnel were also injured in the clashes. Kamaljeet Kaur Sandhu reports on a troubling story from Punjab.
Swords wielded, guns brandished, barricades broken. Tension in Amritsar. Supporters of Khalistan ideologue and Sikh preacher of the Waris Punjab Day group, Amritpal Singh, took to the streets after FIRs were filed against his aides. 6 police personnel were injured after the protesters barged into the Ajnala police station. The leader himself aggravated the situation by issuing open threats to the central and state governments.
ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਕਹੋ ਵੀ ਪਰਚਾ ਕੈਨਸਲ ਕਰ ਦਿਓ ਅਸੀਂ ਘਰੋਂ ਘਰੀ ਜਾਵਾਂਗੇ ਕੁਝ ਦਰਬਾਰ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਮੱਥਾ ਟੇਕ ਕੇ ਜੇ ਪਰਚਾ ਨਹੀਂ ਕੈਨਸਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਤੇ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਡੇਰਾ ਲੱਗੂ ਇੱਥੇ ਅਮਰ ਸੰਚਾਰ ਹੋਊ ਸ਼ਾਮਾਂ ਨੂੰ
A few days ago, Amritpal Singh had threatened Home Minister Ahmad Shah.
ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਧਰਤੀ ਤੇ ਰਾਜ ਕੀਤਾ ਤਾਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਨਹੀਂ ਪਿੱਛੇ ਹਟਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਨਾ ਇੰਦਰਾ ਹਟਾ ਸਕੀ ਹੈ ਨਾ ਮੋਦੀ ਹਟਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਨਾ ਅਮਿਤ ਸ਼ਾਹ ਹਟਾ ਸਕਦਾ ਨਾ ਭਗਵੰਤ ਮਾਨ ਤੇ ਨਾ ਕੋਈ ਹੋਰ
The Bhagwant Mann government has buckled under pressure. The police have let off Amritpal's aide, Lovepreet Tufan.
The person who was arrested, they have given enough proofs that he's innocent. So the city is taking the cognizance of that thing, and ultimately, जो ये लोग अब peacefully disperse हो जाएंगे, and law will take its own course.
The BJP has hit out at the Mann government. Former Union Minister Rajyavardhan Rathore took to Twitter and said, the rising number of crimes and terror activities happening under the nose of the AAP government in Punjab is alarming. The state is going disarray thanks to the lack of leadership and accountability from AAP. Massive failure or a planned way to throw Punjab to anarchy. As Amritpal dares the police, the BJP is questioning why the Aam Admi Party government in Punjab is soft on the Khalistan ideologue.
Behind me is the police station where there was a confrontation between the police as well as Amritpal supporters. But what is important is that Amritpal at this point of time has not only challenged the authority of Punjab police but also the Punjab government. This seems to be a catch-22 because if there's a hardline approach, there would be repercussions. But it seems that Amritpal has already been on a long rope. The ball is very much in Punjab Police Court as to what action they would take in the next 24 hours. With camera person Chandhi Ram, this is Kamaljeet Sandhu in Ajnala for India Today.
Okay, just about enough time then from that troubling story to give you something hopeful to end the day with. Our image of the day. It comes from Amethi, where a biker has found literally his soulmate in the form of a big bird. That's right, a crane who has refused to leave the side of this man ever since he rescued the bird from injury last year. In this video, the bird can be seen flying close to the biker as he goes about on his journey. As I said, sometimes a bird can be a man's best friend. That certainly proves to be the case in this story. You stay well, stay safe. Good night, goodbye, Jai Hind, Namaskar.
Mural Painting, a mural art form of Maharashtra, gives Aurangabad a facelift ahead of a G20 inception meeting. A group of 120 women painted non-stop for 6 hours to complete the artwork.
वुमेन एम्पावरमेंट शो करते हुए हम लोग ये जो प्रोजेक्ट कर रहे हैं वारली का, वर्ल्ड्स लार्जेस्ट वारली पेंटिंग जो है, जिसका रिकॉर्ड पहले पूना में था, उसको पूना के रिकॉर्ड को ब्रेक लेडीज हियर वर्किंग फॉर दिस वारली पेंटिंग टुडे। और इसका सबसे बड़ा क्रेडिट जो जाता है जो मेरी बहुत अच्छी फ्रेंड है वो है नंदिनी घोडेले। ये कॉन्सेप्ट जो जहाँ से आई है वो लड़की ने सर 21 इयर्स की लड़की है। दिस इज रियली अ मोटिवेशन टू ऑल द गर्ल्स ओवर हियर।
The work spread over 3200 square feet will enter the India Book of Records 2024 in the social and cultural category. This painting breaks the earlier record of 3050 square feet set by artists in Pune. I congratulate all the dignitaries, those who have taken efforts, जिन्होंने इस इवेंट को एक सक्सेसफुल बनाया है, and congratulations to Aurangabad Municipal Corporation. There were no professional artists among the 120 participants. They came from different professions like medicine, accountancy, and engineering. Bureau Report, India Today.
अजीज की आजादी तक और भारत की तक हमारा जिहाद फी सबीलिल्लाह हर क़वत पर जारी रहेगा।
Sayyid Salahuddin was at the funeral of Bashir Ahmad Peer, another designated Hizbul Mujahideen terrorist. These images are not from some far-flung area in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. These images, now viral in Pakistan and across the region, are from Rawalpindi, the headquarters of Pakistan Army, barely 20 kilometers from the capital, Islamabad. Here the terrorist once again as he threatens India.
कश्मीर की कुर्बानियों को सबताज होने की साजिशें हो रही। हमें आज अहद करना है खून के आखिरी कतरे तक इंशाअल्लाह वतन अजीज की आजादी तक और भारत की हमारा जिहाद फी सबीलिल्लाह हर क़वत पर जारी रहेगा। दो हाथ उठाकर अल्लाह से वादा करना।
And a large crowd assembled there to cheer Sayyid Salahuddin at the funeral of Peer, a terror handler from Kupwara. Peer, who hailed from Jammu and Kashmir's Kupwara district, had been living in Pakistan for more than 15 years. He was killed by an unidentified miscreant in Pakistan's Rawalpindi a few days ago. Bashir Ahmad Peer was designated a terrorist by India on October 4, 2022, under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act for his role in terror activities in the country. Bashir Ahmad was reportedly involved in uniting terrorists and the expansion of Hizbul Mujahideen, Lashkar-e-Taiba and other Pakistan-based terrorist organizations. According to a notification issued by the Union Home Ministry, Bashir was responsible for providing logistics to Hizbul Mujahideen terrorists, especially for infiltration into Kupwara, Jammu and Kashmir. He also coordinated with other terrorist groups for terror activities in Jammu and Kashmir. This comes 2 days after famous Indian lyricist Javed Akhtar showed Mirror to Pakistan.
हम तो बंबई के लोग हैं, हमने देखा हमारे शहर पे कैसे हमला हुआ था, तो वो लोग नॉर्वे से तो नहीं आए थे, ना इजिप्ट से आए थे, वो लोग अभी भी आपके मुल्क में घूम रहे हैं। तो ये शिकायत अगर हिंदुस्तानी के दिल में हो तो आपको बुरा नहीं मानना चाहिए।
Co-powered by Get quick loans from Tata Capital. Volkswagen Verter.
Armed Khalistan siege in Amritsar.